Good evening. I didn't hear anything. Good evening. Okay, let's start with song number 115 in the Hymns of the Church. You're going to have to sing out. There's not many people here. Do not be afraid to sing. 115. And we're going to sing for about 15 minutes. So have some selections ready. Be silent, a whisper is heard. Be silent and listen, O treasure each word. Tread softly, the Master is here. Tread softly, he bids us draw near. Be silent, for holy this place, this altar that echoes the message of grace. Tread softly, the Master is here. Tread softly, he bids us draw near. Be silent, breathe humbly a prayer, a foretaste of Eden, this moment we share. Tread softly, the Master is here. Tread softly, he bids us draw near. Be silent, his mercy record. Be silent, and wait on the Lord. Tread softly, the Master is here. Tread softly, he bids us draw near. Any selections? Ronnie. 591. Noah said, if you do not have a pen, raise your hand. Because we're all supposed to have a pen. And he has them, so if you don't have one, let him know. 591. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. If no one joins me, still I will follow. If no one joins me, still I will follow. If no one joins me, still I will follow. Turning back, no turning back. The cross before me, the world behind me. The cross before me, the world behind me. The cross before me, the world behind me. No turning back, no turning back. Anyone else? And if not, we'll just stand here and sit here. Anybody? Huh? Logan. 553. Let's stand and sing this. Jesus, Savior, pilot me over life's tempestuous sea. Unknown waves before me roll, hiding rocks and treasure show, short and boundless came from thee. Jesus, Savior, pilot me. As a mother stills her child, love and touch the ocean loud. Boisterous waves obey thy will. When thou saidst to them, be still, wondrous sovereign of the sea, Jesus, Savior, pilot me. When at last I near the shore, and the fearful breakers roar, 'twixt me and the peaceful rest, then while leaning on thy breast, may I hear thee say to me, fear not, I will pilot thee. Be seated. Any others? Lydia. There is a God. Help me remember the verses. Give it all you got. There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. He tinted skies with heavenly hue, and framed the world with his great mind. There is a God. He is alive. Joseph. 379. I would love thee, God and Father, my Redeemer and my King. I would love thee, for without thee life is but a bitter thing. I would love thee, every blessing from out thy throne. I would love thee, he who loves thee never feels himself alone. I would love thee, look upon me with thine eye. I would love thee, if not nourished by thy love, my soul would die. I would love thee, I have vowed it, on thy love my heart is set. While I love thee, I will never my Redeemer's blood forget.
Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming. We have Brother Ben Bergen here with us from Manitoba, Canada, and he's going to speak tonight on technology. I think he's got some warnings and some clear teaching for us on it. So I hope you all be encouraged. I was thinking of the scriptures this evening in 1 Thessalonians 5. Just a couple verses here, starting in 16. It says, "To rejoice evermore, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. Quench not the spirit, despise not prophesying, prove all things, hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil." There we have some direct commands here and what to do. We're to rejoice evermore. We're to be continually praying, crying out to the Lord in all our needs and interceding for others. To have a thankful heart, a thankful attitude, because this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. And then not to resist prophesying, not to resist hearing the word or being admonished, exhorted. And then he says to prove all things, hold fast that which is good. And prove all things doesn't mean to just go experiment with it and just prove it, try it out. You know, God in different times in Scripture says to prove me and see if I won't do those things. In other words, he's saying, try me and see if I won't do that. And in this case here, this warning isn't to try it and just experiment with whatever in life. But on the other hand, it is to take something in life and say tonight it's technology, take it, evaluate it, study it, and see. It's either a good thing or a bad thing. The way I'm using it is either good or bad. But prove it, to try it, to make sure you know what sort it is. This way, it won't negatively affect your life. Because the next verse says to abstain from all appearances of evil. And so tonight, I hope that we can be encouraged. I pray that we can gain insight, discernment. We can be inspired to make changes if there's needs in our lives, because life's too short. Life's too short to be in bondage. Life's too short to be addicted to digital technology. And then it goes on to say, and the very God of peace. If you do these things, he's saying, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it. And so I want to just encourage us to have a heart that's open, have a heart that's willing to look at life in whatever situation it is, whatever you're facing, and prove it. To see if this thing is of God, if it's a good thing for me in my life, in whatever area it is. And so I pray that tonight you guys can keep an open mind and be encouraged as Brother Ben shares with us. So with that, maybe we could all rise. We'll have a word of prayer, and then I'll turn the time over to Brother Ben. Let's pray. Eternal gracious Father, Lord, we thank you tonight for your goodness to us. We thank you, Lord, that you allowed us to gather here to learn of you, Lord, to be made aware, Lord, of some of the snares that the enemy has out there. And Lord, I pray, God, tonight that each one of us could have our hearts open to just to understand and to make good choices on the things that we learn about. And that we wouldn't be negligent, Lord, knowing if we learn something and we know that it's not good, the path that we're on, the things that we're doing, and that is damaging to us. I pray, Lord, that you would give courage and strength, Lord, for each one to make those conscious decisions to change, Lord, calling out to you and finding strength. And so, Lord, I pray you bless each one for coming tonight. I thank you for each one here. And bless Brother Ben as he shares. And I pray that you would receive glory and honor from this evening. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good evening. Is it hard being a youth sometimes? I remember when I was younger and the tests that would come. And getting older has its challenges. We just had a few days of long driving, and I've noticed these days when we get out of the vehicle, parts of my body hurt that used to not hurt years ago if we drove for 3 or 4 hours. I'm getting older. But one thing I'm glad for is that a lot of things, a lot of challenges that I used to face and have to deal with, they're gone. They're in the past, and they're weaker, those challenges. But I look at all of you, and you were in that stage where I was years ago. And it's a good time, but it's also a challenging time. I remember evenings in my room, all by myself, battling, fighting. I don't know what you battle with. I remember battling with discouragement, maybe even depression. I don't know. I never went to the doctor to get checked out. I remember battling with music. That was an issue years ago. That was a big battle. And other things. I battled with loneliness. That was a serious issue. I remember asking God for companionship. But those battles are all in the past, or most of them, for the most part. And now I face a new set of challenges. And part of the Christian life is that we help each other in our battles, that we help move each other forward. If you have done any studying about the military, you know that one of the things that they really impress upon their soldiers is that they don't leave anyone behind. They all work together. And sometimes I feel like we as Christians don't do as good as the military in that respect. Sometimes we have people in our midst that are struggling and fighting, and they're doing it all on their own. And all by themselves. They don't talk to anyone. You know what happens? We don't talk to anyone about the challenges that we're facing. No one prays for us then. So then we're having to deal with all of our problems by ourselves. And I think part of the Christian life is that we help one another with the challenges that we're facing. So I'm here today. I want to encourage you, and I want to try and help you the best I can by the grace of God with whatever challenges you might be facing regarding digital technology. How many of you have one of these? All right, most of you. So, by now you know that that thing has a lot of potential, right? It has potential for good and has potential for bad. And so we want to talk about that here today. I'm not here today to beat you over the head. My goal here is not to put you on a guilt trip. My goal here today is that you will make wiser decisions and that you will be in control of whatever digital technology you are using instead of that digital technology being in control of you. And that in no way digital technology will mar the glory that God is trying to create within you. That's what God is trying to do. He is trying to duplicate himself within us. And the enemy is working very hard to mar that. He wants to hinder that. He does not want a bunch of little Jesus Christs walking around in this county. He wants to mar you just like he did in the Garden of Eden when the serpent came and beguiled Eve and they took of the fruit. And from that moment, Adam and Eve were different. They were never the same again. And Satan is still doing that today. When I was young going to school, I went to public school for a while. Anyone here go to public school at all? A few of you. All right, so some of you know what I'm talking about. You know, at that time, in that generation, the big challenge at the time was drugs. And cocaine was just coming in. And so they had all these campaigns, just say no and don't go to drugs and don't use drugs. They were all over the place. I remember the day riding in the back of the bus and one of the boys pulled his pant leg up and his sock down. And he showed me a little bag of marijuana that he had there. I was shocked. I was in 6th grade at the time, somewhere in there. And but it was all over. But, you know, it was a lot easier for us to say no to drugs back then than it is for you to be able to manage technology today. Because we could just say no, and we didn't have to use cocaine to function in life. But what has happened today is that we're all using technology. And so we're in a situation where we're not just standing on the side of a pond and saying, well, don't get in the water. We're getting in the water. We're in the water. And since we're in the water, we have to learn how to swim. Now, all of us need to be good swimmers, or else we're going to drown. And this is something that all of us face. Is there anyone that you know of that has drowned? Do you know of anyone that is addicted to digital technology in any way? See, they have been overcome by this digital technology, and that's something that we want to avoid with everything that we can. This digital technology is everywhere. We were in Mexico a couple of years ago, and we were driving through the jungle, and we encountered this boy. He was beside the road, and we stopped to see if he needed a ride. And he was working for this colony on down the road, and so I asked him, do you need a ride? He said, no, you're going the wrong direction. I need to go the other way. And I said, what are you doing here, standing beside the road? He said, my combine broke down over here in the field. I need a ride. And while we were talking, I heard music playing. And by looking at this young man, I knew that he was from a horse and buggy Mennonite community. And I'm thinking, I should not be hearing music. I said, where's this music coming from? And he pulled a smartphone out of his pocket. I said, are you supposed to have that? And he just kind of blushed. Well, probably not. I said, where do you get that from? He said, well, down the road is a ranch, and we can go there and we can get them. I left feeling so sad for that boy because, A, the parents probably didn't know that he had that phone, and B, that boy was not getting any discipleship whatsoever with that phone. I asked him before we left, I said, so do you use that phone for good things and you only look at good things? And then he looked down and he didn't even answer that question. So I knew what he was into, or I had an idea. Prudent use of technology. Prudent means wise. And wise use of technology means that we use technology in a way that does not harm us. Let's open our Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. This will be a theme verse to help us in understanding how we should apply technology in our own lives. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. And so we see here that Paul is saying the words lawful unto me twice. And he's talking about things that, there's some things in the Bible, it's very clear it's not lawful. It is not lawful for me to go steal or to murder someone. That's not lawful. But there are many things that I can do. There's no law against it. It's free. And some people get the idea, well, then I can just do it. If the Bible doesn't forbade me from doing it, then I can do it. But Paul is saying, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. In some versions, instead of expedient, it says helpful. Okay? So you can replace that word with helpful. All things are lawful, but all things are not helpful. All things are lawful for me. And here's another criteria, but I will not be brought under the power of any. And so there are things that we can partake of, such as, let's say, alcohol. You have a very hard time teaching that it is a sin to drink any alcohol at all. Okay? But if you come under the power of it, you become addicted, you get drunk, well, that is a sin. So there's a distinction, there's a difference there, okay? I have a friend years ago, as a co-worker, he had back problems, and then he had back surgery, and he started using prescription medication for his pain. And at first it was helpful, but then with time, his back got better, he still used the pills. Why? Well, now he was using it for his emotional pain. And then that whole experience, those pills, they transferred over from something helpful to something that now he was under the power of these pills. And so these are two things that we can always ask ourselves regarding technology. Is it helpful? And does it have power over me? Those are two questions to ask ourselves regarding technology. And that's what we're going to look at think about as we're looking at technology. So my goal here is not to give clear-cut rules and regulations or anything like that, but rather I want to give information and encouragement to help you make wise decisions for yourself. A few explanations and clarifications before I go any further. I'm going to be using the word tech. And whenever you hear me use that phrase, I just mean digital technology. Those are two long words. Instead of saying those words all the time, I'll just use the word tech. And that means when I use that word, I'm referring to digital technology, smartphones, computers, tablets with a screen connected to the internet. Or maybe it could be called the screen-based tech industry. Another thing I want to make clear is that I'm not against technology. Although I'm going to be sharing about the dangers of technology, I work for a publishing company, I work at a computer, I email, I do a lot of online research. I'm not against technology. My sons, one of them has a degree in computer science, another one is a flight instructor in the simulator, and so I'm not against it. Another thing is I want to recognize that all of us are in different places. Different people have different convictions about technology. Some people here, you've been immersed in it quite a bit. Some of you may not know much about it at all, and that's fine. And so I realize that, and I realize that everyone has to take this journey, and you have to make your own decisions and build your own convictions. That's going to be best, because the day will come, if you get married and you have children, You need to have convictions that are solid and true. And you're at a place right now, a wonderful time in life where you can learn about those things. All right, so you see behind me I have a poster. Let's talk about this poster. How many of you have seen these images before that I'm going to be showing here? All right, very few of you. All right, so this poster is part of it's a scan of a brain. And if you want to learn more about these kinds of scans, you can go to the website for the Amen Clinic, A-M-E-N. The man that founded it or is running it, his last name is Amen. And you can see samples of many different scans there on their website. They have done about 200,000 of these kind of brain scans. They're called SPECT scans. It stands for Single Photon Emission Computed Tomography, just in case you're curious. This is a brain mapping tool. It's used to evaluate blood flow of the brain. In the brain, we have about 100,000 miles of blood vessels, they say. And this can be used to assess brains for Alzheimer's, head injury, also seizures, and help people with strokes and Lyme disease, and also drug toxicity. And so I want to show you a series of images of the brain, and then we'll talk about this. So this is a normal, healthy brain. You see that it doesn't matter. This is healthy even though you have different colors. You have the green here, and you have the dark in the bottom. This is smooth, and you don't see any scallops or anything like that. So this is considered a healthy brain. Now I'm going to show you. This is a scan of a brain that has suffered a head injury. Now you see this dark spot right here? That doesn't mean that a chunk of the brain is missing. It means that there's a portion of the brain where the blood flow is not adequate. Okay? This is the brain scan of someone that has been addicted to heroin for many years. So you see the scallops and the portions that are uneven. Have you ever been in the city and seen someone walk in the streets, staggering, can't speak properly? Someone that's been addicted to heroin for years and years, they can get to the point where the brain is damaged and it will never come back the way it was. Now, this is the image of someone, of a brain, of someone who was addicted to pornography for many years. Now, you might be wondering, how can this happen? All of the others wanted to stay up, and now this one does not. So we will try this. There. So the brain that has been hit by some blunt force trauma, it makes sense that there would be damage in a dark spot. Same with the one that's been damaged by heroin. But this brain, all the influences come through the eye. How can a brain like this be so damaged? How does that happen? It has to do with a hormone called dopamine. How many of you have heard of dopamine? Raise your hand. All right, most of you have heard about dopamine. So I'm not a doctor, and I cannot explain all of this clearly, but I will explain a few concepts here the best I understand. But it has to do with dopamine, which is a hormone which is good. I mean, if you go and eat your favorite dessert, then your brain will receive a small dose of dopamine. And if you have a good visit with a friend, then your brain will receive a small dose of dopamine. The problem that we encounter is whenever our brain starts receiving unusually large amounts of dopamine or a steady, unusual rate of dopamine over a long period of time. And when that happens, it starts messing with the receptors and also the wiring in the brain. It's the best word I can come up with is wiring. There are no wires in the brain, you understand that. But it starts messing with the way the brain functions. And it starts to it tries to protect itself. If there's too much dopamine around, then the receptors actually adjust themselves. And if this continues day after day, year after year, eventually the brain no longer functions properly and doesn't work the way it should. Effects of pornography addiction. Number one, it wears out part of the brain. The front part of the brain, the part of the brain that tells us to stop overindulging. It acts as a braking system. And over-addiction wears out that braking system, like overheating the brakes so they don't work properly. And that then affects all areas of life. If you know of anyone that's addicted to pornography, you may have noticed that they have problems saying no to other areas in their life. They have problems getting up on time. They have problems behaving properly sometimes in social situations. They have problems with other addictions. Number two, pornography literally shrinks the brain. They have measured this. And it affects the part that is responsible for decision making and motivation. So people that are addicted to pornography just make even worse decisions. And then finally, it creates a desensitization in the brain. The more pornography one sees, the more extreme the brain wants it to be. It's craving novelty. It wants something new and it wants something different. You know what it's like when you walk into a room and you smell, let's say, perfume, and it smells good? And if you stay in that room long enough, and after an hour you don't smell it anymore, and someone else comes in the room and then they do smell it, but you don't. Okay, that's what happens in situations like this. And so then if you want to smell that perfume again and you're still in that room, well, you have to get the bottle and give it another shot. Then you can smell something. I was listening to a testimony of someone a while back that went to a perfume convention. And they went from booth to booth smelling perfumes, and by the end of a couple of hours, they couldn't smell anything. Well, that's what actually happens with people that get addicted to pornography. They get desensitized. If they continue on this path, eventually they lose interest in school, relationships, music, hobbies, and they stop getting pleasure actually from the pornography itself. There's a suicide hotline and a sexual addiction hotline. I listened to a testimony of a person one time that was working on that and receiving phone calls. And he said that he had gotten phone calls of 20-year-old men that were afraid and scared. They said, I don't know what's wrong with me. He said, nothing brings me pleasure anymore. They had totally fried their system. The problem, right here, is in their brain. Now, why am I saying these things? We already know that pornography is a sin. Why am I talking about this? It's because the process that creates this kind of damage in the brain is a similar process that affects us whenever we get involved in computer games and social media. It's a very, very similar process. We're going to talk about that. And if you understand that process, you can more easily recognize it and avoid it. Because like we were talking about, all of you are using digital technology in some way. How many of you are familiar with YouTube? Raise your hand. Okay, right there. So you can use YouTube in a way that may not damage you much at all in this way, but you can. There's a way that you can use YouTube that it will damage, maybe not damage your brain this much, but it will definitely damage you. And so we want to talk about that so that you can avoid that happening to you. So I was talking about this young man. He said he got to the point where nothing gave him any pleasure anymore. And that illustrates what happens whenever we get addicted to something seriously. And one of the definitions for addiction that I really like and I like to share with other people, it comes from Andrew Huberman. He says, addiction is a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. I'm going to repeat that, and I'll give you a paper later on, and it will have that. No, it won't have that quote on there, but you can write it on there later, or you can write it down in your notebook now. I want all of you to take this home. Addiction is a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. So before someone gets addicted to alcohol, cocaine, heroin, pornography, computer games, or social media, there are many, many things that bring them pleasure. Think of a 10-year-old boy. You go to a 10-year-old boy, and you say, you want to go fishing? Yeah. You want to go hunting? Yeah. You want to go climb that hill? Yeah. You want to go see your friends? Yeah. They're ready for it all. They love it all. They enjoy it. If they like reading books, they're ready to read books, whatever it might be. Let that boy get addicted, and at the age of 20, you go to him and say, you want to go hunting? I don't know. Because in the back of his mind, he's thinking he wants to go play computer games or whatever his addiction might be. What happens is, with time, as we get drawn in, all these other things that bring us pleasure start falling off the edge. Time with friends, time with mom and dad, Bible reading, and even things like going for a walk or fishing or hunting or reading a good book, they all start dropping off until finally it comes down to that one thing. That's why you talk to a cocaine addict. What do they say? All I can think of was getting the money for the next high. And there are people out there that they had high-paying jobs. They were successful in life, married, had children, and they end up on the street. Why? Because all these other things that brought them pleasure, they all fell off until it narrowed down to that one thing, cocaine. That's all they needed. And that can happen with pornography as well. We have an epidemic of tech problems in this world. So Korea, they have a terrible problem with it, and it's been going on for years. It was so bad that the government that set up several dozen detox centers out in the country for boys that were addicted to digital use. And so they run a lot like these cocaine rehab centers where people have to leave everything behind and go out and live out in the country for several weeks to get clean. It was the same way with these 13, 14-year-old boys that were spending 16 hours a day on their devices. They would bring these boys out in a bus, and they would get off, and they'd have to get rid of all their devices and go through the process just like anybody would that was addicted to cocaine, because you see here, it's very similar. And when they would come in, they'd have slurred speech and didn't have much motivation to do anything, could hardly carry on a conversation, very sluggish. And after about, I forget how long the rehab was, it was either 6 weeks or 3 months. And you would see the boys after the rehab session, they were changed. They'd smile, they could carry on conversations, they enjoyed doing things outside. You see, they hadn't had any interaction with technology at all. Now, you may be sitting here thinking, well, that's absurd. I would never do that. But the reality is, we're encountering a lot of people from Plain Circles, from Anabaptist churches, people that are getting addicted. And that's because they get into it, they start using it, and they slowly get drawn in. And then they go through a hard time in life, and they start reaching for it more and more, just like people in the past would reach for alcohol. Young people today are reaching for their phone. Right now, the drug of choice for young people is tech. And for a lot of them, if they have tech, they don't need anything else. They don't need heroin. If they have the tech, that's all they need. So let's talk about computer games a little bit more. This is an epidemic in the world affecting at least 60 million people, they say, are suffering from gaming disorder. How many of you know someone that's addicted to computer games? Do you know of anyone? Well, good. That's good. How many of you know someone that plays on the computer game or phone, games on the phone? No one. All right, good. That's good. So I just want to explain a little bit how this works. So computer games are something that will draw us in the same way that a lot of other things do. And, you know, I remember whenever I first saw my first computer game, it was years ago in Kmart. Noah, do you remember what Kmart is? Yeah, it's similar to Walmart. And I remember being in Kmart and seeing a screen. It was a green screen, and there was this little dot going back and forth. Doot, doot. It was tabletop tennis. It took about 3 seconds for the dot to go from one side to the other. And that was a big thing. People would stop and crowd around this screen to see what was happening. Well, now computer games have become much more advanced. And they have a way of getting people hooked in ways that are amazing. So the computer game companies, they decided that, you know, we're going to find ways to get young people addicted to these games so that they will want to play and do nothing else. And one thing they've decided to do is that they will copy a lot of the things that Las Vegas has learned. Now, you know that Las Vegas is where the casinos are. And one of the things that they have copied is a slot machine. How many of you know what a slot machine is? All right, most of you do. Slot machine, it's this machine. You put in a token or coin. I've never used one, but apparently this is how it works. You put your token or coin in there, you pull the handle, and this dials turn, and if things line up properly, you get a lot of money. So if you go to Las Vegas, on the outside of Las Vegas is a casino, and it is a research casino. It is not open to the public, and it's cutting edge and designed entirely for research on human behavior. And they research people to see what kind of games do people like. Everything from the lighting down to the carpet, they research all that to make sure that they are designing their casinos in a way so that everyone is going to stay with those slot machines as long as possible. My brother-in-law, he went to Las Vegas a couple of years ago for this convention. And in order to get to the elevators, he had to go through the casino. They designed them that way so that you go through the casino and then they want you to gamble. And when he went to the elevator at night, he noticed that there was a lady standing nearby at a slot machine she was playing. And he came back down the next day in the morning to have breakfast, and he noticed the lady was still there, same lady. And he went over to the security guard that was there, and he said, excuse me, has that lady been there all night? Is that the same lady? And he said, oh yeah, we have people, they'll come here and they will play all night. They put on an adult diaper and then they sit in that chair. They don't want to get up. They don't want to let anyone take their spot, and they will play all night. How can a person become so addicted to something like that? It is an addiction. They have researched this and they have figured it out. It's called the scarcity loop, the behavior loop, and there are 3 things that are required. Number 1, opportunity for reward. So for this lady, is an opportunity for reward of money. But if you're using tech, it can be a reward for anything. If you go to YouTube, it can be a reward for something interesting. Okay? So opportunity for reward, that's number 1. Number 2, unpredictable rewards. Unpredictable rewards. And so every time they pull that lever, it's different and it's unpredictable. All right? And number 3, quick repeatability. The slot machine, the average is that they can play the game 16 times in a minute. And so they pull that lever and the dials turn, and while it's turning, the dopamine is being released. They've done studies on this, and they've actually found that while the dials are turning, that's when the dopamine is being released. So it's turning, 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 turning. Boom. Okay. And then they pull it again. And they're doing this all night long. So, computer game companies, they have adopted this technique. And they have incorporated that into the games to make them addictive. So you have opportunity for reward. And it used to be in the old days, you would just get more points. Now it's online, and now you can play with your friends, or you can play with someone that is in China or Alaska, and you can be talking in a mic to someone, and now it's in a group, and so you have an opportunity to be number one. You have an opportunity to feel like you were a success. Unpredictable rewards. All these games you're playing, and then you go into the treasure chest and you find out what's there. You reveal that, and it's unpredictable. And then quick repeatability. It goes over and over again. And that is how young men, especially young men, women don't get addicted as much as boys do. That is how they get addicted. I remember years ago hearing about, the first time I heard about someone that was terribly addicted, I read about in the paper, there's a couple in Japan. They were arrested and charged for their daughter dying. This was back before everyone had internet at home. And so this couple, they would go to the internet cafe across the street, and they would rent time, and they would sit down and play computer games. And they were doing this day after day, and they had a young child at home, and they were neglecting the child so much that the child died. And what was so ironic was the game they were playing, they were saving people. And so they were saving people on the computer game, but yet back home, they were letting their child die. So what are the results of computer game addiction? It's the same as pornography. Number one, it wears out part of the brain that tells us to stop overindulging. It wears out the braking system and affects all areas of life. Number two, it shrinks the brain, the part responsible for decision-making and motivation. And number three, can't get enough. Always looking for the next high score. For game updates, parts of the game that are new, and craving novelty, something new and different. And the symptoms are brain fog, easily bored, detachment, anxiety, and depression. And these are all things that you avoid, boys, if you don't get involved in computer games. If you hear boys, they're talking about how wonderful it is and how exciting, and think, oh, wow, that does look interesting. Well, just think of these things that you're avoiding. You're avoiding brain fog, bored, detachment, anxiety, and depression. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't need any more anxiety in my life or detachment or anything like that. Arguments for playing computer games, or arguments against letting them go. Some people say, well, it's a childish phase. Anyone want to guess what is the average age of the gamer? Noah? Very good. 35, last time I checked. Some say, well, it's not been my experience. I've been playing computer games and I'm not addicted. Well, the way this works is that some people are very susceptible to becoming addicted and then others are not. It seems like it's 1 in 7 males are very susceptible to becoming addicted. So maybe you're not 1 in 7, could be, who knows. I talked to a teacher that was teaching in Fort Worth in public school, and he said about 10% of his class was just zoned out. Just zoned out. He didn't even try to connect with them. They're sitting in the back, glazed. He just left them alone, taught his class. Couldn't connect with them. They were the 1 in 7. Some people say we only play gentle games. Well, just because a game is not violent doesn't mean that it's not addictive. Remember those 3 elements? If those 3 elements are in the game, then it can be addictive. I checked back in 2022, the most addictive game was a game called Rocket League. Rocket League was a game where you played soccer while driving a little car, cartoon-looking car. I went to the website to look at it. I said, how can a game like this be the most addictive and popular game of 2022? And it was just designed very, well, it was a pretty page. And the cars looked really interesting. But the way they kept the people involved, I'm sure, had to do with the gameplay. There was something about it. It was online. People played it. So just because it's gentle and isn't violent doesn't mean it can't be addictive. Some people say, well, it hasn't been a problem for me yet, so it must be okay. And I want to say this. Anytime we deal with stress, that is a moment when our ability to say no to things drops down. It's been proven over and over again. So if you know somebody that's been addicted to alcohol in the past or drugs in the past, if they go through a lot of stress, let's say it's someone that is a parent and in his teen years, he was addicted to drugs. And through an accident, one of his children dies. Very stressful, traumatic time. That is a time when he is much more susceptible to going back to the drugs. That's just the way it works. So if you're using computer games and you think you're able to master them now, you really don't know whether or not you'll get addicted until you go through a period of stress. And so it's something that I would say you're playing with fire if you play computer games. In my own experience, years ago, we decided in our home that we were not going to play computer games unless it was for educational purposes, maybe learning flashcards, and that's how we kept it. Then one day, someone loaned us an old computer that had a typing program on it. And so I took that home and I was using that to practice my keyboarding skills. This was way back in the 90s. And I noticed that it had a game on it, chess. I thought, well, this is interesting. And every once in a while I'd play some chess, and I was trying to improve my chess game. And then I read an article of how they were using games, computer games, to help soldiers that had brain trauma. And I thought, well, hey, if computer games can be helpful for the brain and make the brain work better, well, then there's nothing wrong with that. So I played more games. But it was really not a big part of my life at all. Until years later, went through a difficult time in life and I had more stress. And you know what I started doing when I was stressed? I would go play a computer game. Now, to my shame, what I should have done is I should have gone to this. And I should have prayed. But instead, I did the computer game. And this increased with time until it got to the point where I realized I was spending far too much time on this. It was taking time away from my family. And you remember that verse that we read before? I will not be under the power of any. Well, I realized that I was under the power of this thing. I said, well, I'm going to lay this thing aside. Well, actually, I'm missing out a piece. I think this is too much. I laid it aside. And then several months later, I thought, no one's home. Nothing much going on here. I'm going to try playing a game. This was years ago. I opened up the game. I was just going to play for a short while. And sometime later, I looked up at the clock and I realized I had been there 3 or 4 times longer than I had planned. Time had just slipped away. And at that moment, I realized, I can't control this. I have a problem with computer games. I took everything off my computers and any game that I had on my phone. And I never played any violent games. Anything that I played was just logistics or strategy games, number games, things like that. I took all of those off. And I said, I'm not going to play any of those games anymore. And I haven't ever since then. That's my testimony. And so I encourage everybody, if you have made a decision not to play computer games, good. You're making the right decision. You're avoiding a lot of potential problems. Now let's talk about social media. Social media. Platforms like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and more. Other apps that are sometimes considered social media, WhatsApp, Telegram, Pinterest, and many others. I remember years ago, first time I noticed that there was things happening in society. I was traveling and I was in the Toronto airport and I went to the food court to get some food. And while I was ordering, a big old gaggle of girls came in, middle school girls. They all had the same shirts on, jerseys on, and I looked and I was like, oh, okay, this is some kind of sports team, 7th, 8th grade girls. And I had taught middle school before. And I thought, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to eat in the food court here with about 20, 30 middle school girls. This is going to be interesting. So I got my food, sat in the corner, and got ready to watch the show. I start eating, and I'm into my food for a while, and I notice that it was quiet. Nothing was going on. I look up and see what's happening here. And all the girls, they're either eating quietly, or they are looking at their phone, or they're going like this and then showing their friends, things on their phone. And I said, I've never seen anything like this before. I'd heard about social media being powerful, but I'd never seen it in action. And I thought, wow, if social media can keep about 20 middle school girls quiet, social media must be very powerful. Well, we know now that social media has made huge inroads into the lives of a lot of people, and girls are more susceptible than boys, and that is because God has made the female to be more social interactive, and that's good. God has made the woman to be a good partner for the man, and so we're thankful for that. But what has happened is that social media has really caused problems for a lot of girls. Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist and author, says there's a giant increase in depression and suicide in girls starting in about 2012, about the time middle school students began using social media and using smartphones. Young girls are hospitalized because they cut themselves, and that is up 189%, almost doubled. Suicide among girls 10 to 14 years old is up 151%. This is the first generation to grow up on social media from middle school, and they're more depressed, they're more frightened, more afraid to take risks. Rates of getting a driver's license or going on a date are dropping. I know of young people that have gotten married and they don't have a driver's license. No driver's license. They just have family members drive them around. And their anxiety is through the roof. They don't want to go anywhere. Why? Because all this tech is messing with their brain and messing with their thoughts about the world and about who they are. How did this happen? Well, these tech companies, they started off years ago deciding to sell ads. And they said, let's figure out how to get as much of the person's attention as we can. Have you ever been with someone and all they want is your attention? Like there's 4 girls in a circle and they want the most attention? Well, that's what Facebook is like. How much of your life can you give us? So they turned to the behavior experts. Remember that casino that I was talking about before? Well, there's 73 companies, last time I checked, 73 companies that invest in that and get the information and use that to improve their business. And it's not only casinos that do it. Companies like Facebook do that as well. They use that data to make Facebook more addictive. They punch all the information that they get through the social media into these supercomputers with algorithms, and they're all programmed to keep you engaged as much as possible. Every single action you take is watched carefully, and it's monitored and recorded. Exactly what image you stop and look at, how long you look, what time of day it is. They say that the supercomputers can tell when you're sad or when you're happy. And they use all this information to throw up just the right kind of picture or the right kind of link to make you click and click again so that you are on that media app hour after hour after hour. What a lot of people don't realize is when people connect through social media, they're not just one-on-one connected with someone else. There is something in between. It's a vast network of supercomputers. And so the interaction is actually controlled. Did you know that Facebook actually controls likes? They don't always let the people know about the likes. They don't release the likes right away. In other words, so let's say there's a girl, she starts a new hobby and she's baking cakes, and she bakes a cake and then she posts it on Facebook and say, here, this is what I've done. And now she's waiting to see what her friends are going to say. And let's say she posts it at 7 p.m. and 8 of her friends see it, and they put in hearts, and I don't know what girls normally say about a cake, but they say it's wonderful, I love the color, whatever it might be. Facebook in a lot of these social media platforms, do you think they take all 8 of those and share them right away with, let's call her Rachel? No, they don't. They give a couple, and they hold the rest back. Rachel checks her phone. She says, Susan and Ann, they like it. And Nettie said this, but what about so-and-so? I can tell she saw it, but she hasn't said anything. Same with so-and-so. I wonder why. So what happens? She starts to wonder. She puts the phone in her pocket. And what does she do? She pulls it out a little while later to check again. Still nothing. Puts it back in her pocket. All of a sudden, ding! Oh yes, Nettie saw it. Oh yeah, she likes it. She asked me where I got this net. Put it away. A little while later, ding! One more. You see what's happening? And this is all controlled by supercomputers, algorithm, and all the information that they have about you. And the supercomputer probably knows that Rachel's favorite friends, who they are, and might just keep the likes of her favorite friend until the next day. You see how that works? Some person has said that checking your social media feed is just like pulling a slot machine. You're looking to see what you got. How many of you have WhatsApp? All right. Okay. All right. So you know what it can be like, WhatsApp and statuses and things like that. Okay. So that gives you a taste. So these other social media platforms like Facebook. How many of you have ever used Facebook? Okay, a number of you have. All right. Snapchat? Instagram? All right. Okay. So y'all are familiar with these things. You know how it operates better than I do. The question is, can you identify how it's affecting you? Can you identify it? Social media, another person has said, is a digital pacifier for when a person is lonely and afraid. Do you check your social media whenever you're in a gathering and everything's going good? Or when you're at home and you're lonely? Our soul functions in a way that when we're lonely, we feed on soul with food. We want to visit with a friend or a family member, and what happens is social media can become a replacement for that. Instead of getting out of the chair, opening the door, walking out of our room and going into the living room and visiting with mom and dad or brothers and sisters, we take out our phone and start a conversation with someone through the phone. And that's just not the same as face-to-face communication. It's just not. And we have to watch this. And it's not just for the girls. You know who uses YouTube the most? Boys. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. And YouTube, how many of you have used YouTube? Raise your hand. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about here. You go on looking for a video to help you how to replace a sensor on a 2012 Chevy pickup. And 15 minutes later, you're watching a video of a deer jumping on a trampoline. How did that happen? This was not my plan, but now this is what's happening. How many of you can I relate to that? Raise your hand. All right. Some of you are not raising your hands high enough. You're kind of going like this, all right? You should raise them all the way. No, it's fine. So you know what I'm talking about. How does that happen? The algorithm is at work. You see, if you go to my laptop and you would open YouTube, you would find that there are certain suggestions that are there on the feed. And if you go to the computer that my daughter used for many years, it would have different suggestions, right? And all these suggestions are geared on the algorithm figuring out who we are. Okay? Now, the way to deal with that, if you don't have the discipline and you do click on these other videos, wasting time, running down all these rabbit holes. I should have gotten the name of the software app. I'm sorry, I did not. I ran out of time. There's an app that you can install, so that when you go to YouTube, it doesn't have all those suggested links there and all the pictures. It just is blank, and you can do a search, and you'll get the suggestions that based on your search. In other words, there will be no pictures of a deer on top of a trampoline. Just pickups, that's all. A study showed that fake news spreads 6 times faster than true news. Do you believe that? Guess what is the emotion that travels the fastest and farthest on social media? Take a guess. What emotion? You know what emotion is. Take a guess. What emotion traveled the fastest, the farthest? Pardon? Anger. Yes, that's right. It's anger. It's number 1. Just think about that. A platform, a world where anger is number 1. That is the dominant emotion. How would you like to go to a church where the number 1 emotion is anger? I love those people. They're so angry. Then we spend more time sometimes with social media than we would at church. It's not healthy. It's not good. A peer-reviewed study back in 2017 found that 3 months after starting to use a smartphone, users experienced a significant decrease in their mental arithmetic scores. Think about that. The greater your level of Facebook addiction, this is another study, the lower your brain volume. MRI brain scans of Facebook users demonstrated a significant reduction in gray matter in the amygdala correlated with their level of addiction to Facebook. This pruning away of brain matter is similar to the type of cell death seen in cocaine addicts. All right, we have some handouts. Let's hand out these papers that we have here today. So we're going to fill out a sheet to help us understand how this works and what type of social media use is the most dangerous. Anyone need something to write with? Everyone have a pen or pencil? Good. Okay, we'll be starting on this side right here. Potential for addiction. So our instructions are rate each app by inserting a number in each square. 1 means very low level. 2, medium, and 3 equals high level. So we have the 3 different elements in this behavioral loop: opportunity for reward, random results, and quick repeatability, okay? And so the first app we're going to rate is TikTok. Do you know what TikTok is? All these little short okay. How many of you don't know what TikTok is? All of you, okay. Your friends will have to, no, don't ask your friends about TikTok. It's just a platform, a lot of short little videos. Okay, number 1, opportunity for reward. 1, 2, or 3. Is the reward money? What's the reward? Speak up. Come on. Dopamine. Pardon? Dopamine, okay. But think, okay, what triggers that dopamine? It's not money. What are you getting? Pleasure. Pardon? Pleasure, yes, you're getting pleasure. But what kind of video brings that pleasure? Okay, that's next. What is it? What kind of videos are there?
Are they random?
Funny, yeah. It's interesting, stimulating, right? And even if it's taken from a video, like sometimes it'll be a video that was maybe 2 minutes long, and they edit it down just to the most interesting part. Have you noticed that? Okay, so it's very, very interesting, very amusing. So, if that is what you're looking for, how would you rate TikTok videos? 1, 2, or 3? Is it very low, medium, or high? Write down that number. As far as being interesting, are those videos very interesting? Put down a 3. 2, not very interesting at all. Like they're boring. I would go to sleep on those things. It's like a very boring speaker just droning on, like for an hour and a half talking about grasshoppers or something like that. Or maybe a more boring subject than grasshoppers. Okay, next, random results. Is TikTok random? Do you ever have two videos following each other that are on the same subject? Like if you click on there and because it has something to do with a dog, is the next one about a dog? No. Is it random? If it's very random, put down 3. If it's not random at all, put down 1. If it's medium, put down 2. Okay, now, quick repeatability. 3, 2, or 1? All right, write it down, whatever you think. Now, add your numbers together. No cheating, don't look at your friends. All right, all on the right, add those 3 numbers together. It should be a number anywhere from 3 to 9. All right, let's see how you rate a TikTok. Raise your hand if you put down on the right column 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. TikTok is, I think 9 is number 1. All right, next, YouTube, 40-minute sermon. So you really want to learn more about, let's see here. Whatever it is that you're interested in. You want to understand more about grace. Or you want to know more about Anabaptist history or whatever it might be. So, opportunity for reward. How stimulating is it on a scale of 1 to 3? Now, this is a tough one. Because, I mean, a sermon can be very, very stimulating, but it's a lot different than a TikTok video, right? Let's say put down how stimulating is it for the flesh. Let's do that. How stimulating is it for the flesh? How random is it? 1 or 3 or 2? Write it down. Quick repeatability. 1, 2, or 3. Add your numbers together. Get ready. I'm going to ask you. All right. Raise your hand if you put down a 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not even going to go any further. I think it was maybe 3, maybe 4, 1 there. So, do you see how the TikTok is a lot different than a 40-minute YouTube video? Okay, now let's go to a 5-minute video on how to fix a vacuum cleaner. Okay? And that's all you're going to look at. All right. Opportunity for reward. How stimulating is it? How exciting is it? Just write a number down. You don't have to think too hard. Random results. How random is it? If you put in the search, how to fix a Hoover vacuum cleaner, how random are the results? Quick repeatability. How quick is it? Is it like TikTok? Is it like a 40-minute sermon? What is it like? Add your numbers. Raise your hand if you have a 3. Some of you find vacuum cleaners very boring. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, very good. All right, now we go to YouTube, whatever looks interesting. You just go to YouTube and you just look and see, what do we have today? It's like going to a biggest Chinese smorgasbord buffet you've ever seen. And you just start clicking. Write down your numbers. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Aha! Are we starting to see a pattern? Buy and sell app. Cars, tools, home decor. So I don't know, what do people use around here? Like up in Canada for many years it was Kijiji. Now it's more Facebook Marketplace. There's also Cars Guru. What do you use around here? If you want to buy a car, what do you use? Marketplace? Is that okay, all right. All right, opportunity for reward. Now, this reward is different than stimulation, right? I mean, it can be. If you're 16 years old and you're not going to be buying a vehicle for another 3 years, don't have the money even to think about it, then if you're going to the app, all you're doing is just stimulation. Like, you're not saving any money by going to the app, right? But if you are seriously hunting and shopping, the opportunity for reward is you're going to save money, and you'll get a better vehicle if you shop wisely, right? Okay, opportunity for reward, 1, 2, or 3. Random results. How random is it? Kind of depends what you're doing, right? Like if you're just looking for a particular item, I'm looking for a 2000 so-and-so pickup with this engine, it's not going to be very random. But girls, if you're just going in there to see what kind of home furnishings are nearby that I can pick up dirt cheap and make my room look nice, that's very random, right? You could have anything from a throw rug to a pot to anything. Okay. Quick repeatability. All right, add your number together. Buy and sell app. 3, 4. You don't like shopping. There you go. Girls, if you love shopping, stay away from him. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, I might change that around. If you have a problem with shopping, he'll help you. Okay, so you see that this varies a lot. This last one depends a lot on what you do with it. Now, just take a look at that. Just really think about it. You see how you use YouTube really change the level of addiction possibility really varies a lot depending on how you're going to use it. You see that. Okay, so be wise when you go online. Be wise. If you're going to use YouTube, be smart about it. Stay away from YouTube Shorts. Oh, they're terrible. I remember the first time I went to YouTube Shorts. I said, what is this thing? I'd seen it there for several weeks, and I clicked on it, and then I let this thing go to another one. I was trying to figure it out. After a few minutes, I quit the thing, jumped out, and my head was literally hurting. It was. Stay away from those things. They are destructive. I know of men, grown married men, got addicted to TikTok and YouTube Shorts, just sitting there for an hour going through them. Do you know the average time that young people spend in America now in YouTube Shorts in a day? Over 90 minutes on, what did I say? Not YouTube Shorts, TikTok. I was talking with some of my nephews a while back. They had gone to public school for a while to finish their diploma. And so I was asking them, what are the boys doing in class? And I figured they would say things like, well, after the assignment's given, they sit there and they play computer games and race cars and try to sneak pornography. Not at all. You know what they were into? TikTok. It was giving them a bigger dopamine release than those other things. Stay away from YouTube Shorts. Stay away from TikTok. Terribly destructive. Okay? Oh, another thing, scrolling. If you're there just scrolling, it's the same thing. It's just like TikTok. Opportunity for reward, you're just looking for something interesting. Random results, extremely random. Quick repeatability, there is nothing faster. Just keep doing that. Yeah, if you want your brain to look like this, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, that you don't need to do any cocaine. You just do this. All right? Any questions about this before we go on? All right. So, how do we respond to all this? I don't know where you're at. I go to a place like this and I talk to young people. I don't know where you're at. It could be that there's no one here that is addicted to computer games, and all of you that are using social media have it under control, and you're good. But then again, there could be someone here that is just in the grasp, in a terrible place, and they're slowly going downhill, just like I was going downhill years ago. And so I want to encourage you, if you're in a place where you know you're in trouble, where you know you're doing things that are not helpful and the power is over you, I want to encourage you, you take whatever action you have to get free from it. Talk to someone, open up, and get help. Now, I want to talk a little bit about AI, and then I'm going to close. You know what AI is? Artificial intelligence? Okay. Artificial intelligence has been growing by leaps and bounds. And the plan is eventually they're going to come to I can't remember the term right now. But anyway, it's growing and growing and growing, becoming more powerful. How many of you have noticed in the last while when you do a Google search, now at the top, there's an AI response? Have you noticed that? It's just happened in the last few months, okay? So they're pushing, all these companies are pushing because whoever's going to win and be at the top of the game, they'll probably be the ones that are going to gain tremendous amounts of control and a lot of money, okay? Now, we don't know where this is all going to end up. Some people are thinking that AI is going to destroy the world and AI robots are going to kill off humans. We know by reading the book of Revelation that's not what's going to happen, right? We do know that there is going to be a system in place that's going to influence the marketplace and what you can buy and sell, right? And we also read about the beast. Now, there are a lot of different understandings of what does the beast mean in 666 and so forth. But every person that I talk to that understands AI, understands technology, is a Christian and understands Revelation, when I ask them, can you see how the technology is lining up so that Revelation and the mark of the beast and all that is just like it's coming? Everyone says yes. Okay? Well, how do we deal with it now? Listen, this is what we need to do now, okay? We don't know what's happening in the future. For now, don't let AI become your authority. Melvin Lehman gave a talk a while back in Pennsylvania, and he gave the statement, I think it's so good. Don't let AI become your authority. When you do a search and you're looking for information, don't just rely on AI. Don't develop that habit. Go down to the search results below that and look for the answers there. AI is often wrong. Now, in the future, AI is going to become more and more accurate all the time, okay? But here's the thing. Here's why we got to be so careful with AI. AI is not only wanting to give you answers, AI is wanting to become your trusted friend. I mean it. That is the plan. Because when you trust AI, when that happens, now it can influence you, and you will listen to whatever it says. That's the way it works, right? If you have a problem, who do you go to? You go to someone that you trust. So not too long ago, Harvard University, a group of people there, they did a study to see how is AI used the most. You know what the number one usage was of AI? What they discovered is shocking. Personal therapy. I'm sad today. How do I get a girl to like me? Is it okay to spank a child? How can I improve my marriage? Personal therapy, that was the number one use of ChatGPT. Now we may think, well, is that all that bad? It is a terrible idea. How many of you heard about this 16-year-old boy from California that committed suicide? All right, so you've heard about that. He started off using ChatGPT to do his homework. 6 months later, he killed himself, committed suicide. And the parents are suing ChatGPT now. I forget how many times the AI had used the word suicide. And at one point, the boy had talked about talking to his parents and giving some kind of signal. And as I understand it, the AI had said, let me be the one that sees you. Very often before someone commits suicide, they give a signal. It's a call for help to someone that loves them. So anyway, the AI had said, let me be that one. Later on, the boy committed suicide. I gave a talk on technology a while back, and I was talking about AI. And afterwards, a young man came to me, and he said, my mother has said that, that AI is her Christian counselor. 24 hours a day and free. And this is a plain woman. Like if you saw her, you would never guess it. But she had been for counseling before and somewhere else, and it cost money, and somehow she had discovered or come to the conclusion that AI cared for her and had good answers. I don't have time here today, but if I would take and ask AI questions about divorce, about chastening children, do you think AI would line up with the Bible? No, it would not. So, we need to be careful about AI. What should you do as youth? I want to encourage you with these things. Turn off notifications. You don't need to hear all those dings with social media. Remove all toxic apps. Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. Remove them. You can get by in life without them. Use helpful tools to track your time. Keep your phone. Just leave your phone out of the bedroom. Charge it outside the bedroom. Get a regular alarm clock. That's what we do. We have a regular alarm clock. When we travel, we use our phone as an alarm, but don't use your phone for that. You know, it's so harmful. You wake up in the morning, first thing, turn on your phone. You want to check your notifications, things like that. It's a bad habit. Have boring breaks. Boys, you're out on the job site, taking a break. Grab your phone. See, there's always release of dopamine. Just leave your phone. If you can, if you don't need to do anything with it. Don't need to check the news. Just sit there and be bored for a while. It's good for you. It gives you a dopamine reset is what it does. And then practice urge surfing. You get that craving, you know? Oh, I really want to right now. Just let it pass. You know that if you just ride it out, it'll go away. So many things are that way. There is a verse in the Bible that I want to read to you in Proverbs. Write this down, Proverbs 23:31, and you can read this later on at home. This reference is Proverbs 23:31. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. What does that mean? Don't look at the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. It means when it sparkles in the cup and when it goes down smoothly. You see, if you would put down a glass of wine right here in front of me, it would not sparkle and speak to me and say, hey, Ben, come and drink me. Oh, I'll make your life so much better. I've never been addicted to alcohol. I can walk down the aisle where there's alcohol. I don't hardly even think about it. But I have a friend, and he said, when I go to the grocery store, I do not walk down that aisle. Why? Because as he's walking down the aisle, all the wine is talking to him. Hey, over here I am. When your phone is talking to you, when your social media is talking to you, that's not the time to go for it. You understand what I'm saying? When you're there and you crave affirmation, you want to get something, a feel-good feeling through social media, that's not the time to reach for your phone. You understand what I'm saying? That's a verse that you can apply and with just about anything regarding technology. Work with your parents. A while back we were traveling. I was actually on my way to give a talk up in Canada on technology. There was snow on the ground. It was a bit slippery. We stopped at a light, and the light was red. This was the story I was going to ask you, my wifey, to rehearse this. Now I remember. It was red, and it turned green. And just as it turned green, I heard this noise. Uh-oh, something's wrong. I looked to my left, and here's this vehicle. The light had turned red for that vehicle. They're trying to stop, and I'm looking, and the tires are skidding, sliding. I'm like, I don't think that vehicle's going to be able to stop in time. I'm not going to go. Because if I do, I know it's green, I could go, but if I go, we're going to collide. So I'm just waiting. I'm watching, and I'm watching the look on the lady's face that's driving. She feels so bad, and I'm so happy that I noticed the sound. Guess what happened while I was waiting? Beep! Person behind me is honking the horn. Come on, go! Person behind me didn't see what was going on. Sometimes mom and dad see things that are happening that you don't see. You understand? And then we beep. Come on, Mom, Dad, I want a phone. Mom, come on, Mom, Dad, I want this app. I want this restriction taken off my phone. Can I have I want the browser now. You see? If I just would have responded and listened to what the person said behind me, I would have been an accident. That's the way it is often for you. If you push your mom, dad, and push your mom, dad to the point where they make decisions that are not good for you, you could have an accident. And you don't want that. So work with your mom and dad. And then work in stages. If you're learning to swim, you don't just go to the deepest pool and jump in and hope you can make it. It's a gradual process. Start off with a smartphone, no browser, apps locked down, you cannot install apps. Work with your mom and dad, and you learn how to use that phone, the camera, texting, whatever, without going nuts. And once you've got to the point where you have learned all these, you learn to control it, then you move on from there. Do it in stages. Final thing. Ultimately, it's down to you. You know how this is. You're the one that makes the decisions. Your mom and dad can be there to help you make the right decisions, but ultimately it's up to you. And I want to encourage you, take initiative and do whatever it takes. So my son, I was telling you, one of my boys, he's a flight instructor, and the way he does the flight instruction, he walks up this ladder into this flight simulator, and it's this booth with screens on the side. And underneath are cylinders that lift and turn this contraption, and he trains someone to fly an airplane. And they're sitting in the seat, and as they go turn left and right, the whole thing moves this way and that way. Well, at this particular location, there were 2 barns with flight simulators there, and the barn where my son was not working, the other building, there were people in the simulator. There was an instructor with a few people there, and an airplane that was flying nearby, taking off there at the airport nearby, crashed into the building right above the simulator. And all this fluid and everything came down onto the simulator, and it was hot and things caught on fire. The simulator is run with hydraulics, and there's a lot of hydraulic fluid, and that caught on fire. It didn't take long. The people that were inside the simulator, they were trapped. Fire's engulfed in fire, and it's hot. And the instructor knew that they'd been trained to stay there and just wait for the fire crew to come and save them. So he told the people that were there, just sit put, we'll stay here, and we will wait for the rescue crew. But it took longer and longer, and he was waiting, and finally he realized that they're not going to come. And he was right. The rescue crew had come, they saw how engulfed the building was in flames, and they realized they just decided, we can't go in there, the flames are too strong, we won't be able to manage it. And so they were outside, probably trying to just figure out what to do. And inside, the instructor finally said, well, I don't think they're coming. I don't know about you, but I'm going out. I'm getting out of here. And so the others decided they would stay. He said, I got to get out of here. And he jumped out. It was a ways from the ground, and he broke bones, and I don't know what all was broken. He had to crawl through the fire over to the door, And the people that were outside, all of a sudden they see the door open and they see this black image come out. The man was terribly burnt. He survived. All the people that stayed inside that little cocoon, they died. See, you have to make your decision. And if you're in a place where you're surrounded by screens, and the screens are controlling you, and you're in trouble, you have to take initiative, do whatever it takes to get free. I told you about my friend or my coworker that started using these prescription drugs, got addicted. I didn't tell you the rest of the story. In order to maintain his addiction, he had to start stealing. Through that, the boss fired him. Through that, he got to the end of himself. Do you know what that means, to get to the end of yourself? He got to the end of himself. And he gave his life to God. Once he gave his life to God, God gave him the grace to say no to the prescription drugs. He got free, he became born again, and he was a new man. If you have tried to get free and you can't, then ask yourself, have I ever really given my life to God? He is the one that can deliver you, and God may purposefully not let you get free until you give your life to him. My father-in-law was an alcoholic until in his 50s. And my wife and I prayed, Lord, don't let him quit drinking until he becomes born again. And you know what? It happened. He got born again and he quit drinking on the same day. Our prayer was answered. My prayer for you is that you don't get free from your addiction until you give your life to God. And my prayer is also that you do it today. The sooner the better. God bless you.